الرسول الله وأن محمد الرسول الله يا صلاة يا صلاة.
Before Mustafa will again see the storks nesting on the roofs of his village, another year will pass, inshallah, if Allah be willing. It was sad to say goodbye to the place of one's childhood, and still there was an excitement in Mustafa to think that he was to go away to a school in the city, to learn something of the world outside his village, inshallah, if Allah be willing. There are some who spend their lives on rocky hillsides of Morocco with the sheep. Mustafa's neighbor Ali knew the world of North Africa only as far as the marketplace in the next town where he sold his wheat. But a man's life could be very different if he had learning. Arbila and Mustafa's aunt Zohra knew less of the world than Ali. Most people here in Morocco feel that a woman should stay at home making couscous and caring for the family, where she does not have to cover her face against the gaze of strange men. There came the day of leaving, a day of pride for Mustafa's father, whose schooling had never gone beyond the pages of the Quran, the Bible of the Muslims. Though Mustafa perhaps no longer believed in charms, he let his sister put the hand of Fatima about his neck, because his mother would have wanted it to protect him from evil. His brother threw after him a bowl of water and oil, and made the traveler stay on top as oil does on water. Muhammad said, "Seek learning though it be in China." For many centuries here in Morocco there has been no chance, except for the few, to seek learning beyond the pages of the Quran. But today, since we have gotten our independence, there are many young people who walk 100, 200 kilometers to beg to be admitted to an upper school. It was a long journey for Mustafa, not knowing whether the doors of a school would open for him. Along the road there was a mosque, and from it a sound out of Mustafa's childhood. It was the sound of boys chanting verses of the Quran, as boys do throughout the world of Islam. Students learn to read and write the Quran and memorize much of it. In the courtyard there was a spot marked with stones where the boys washed their writing boards. The word Allah is sacred and must not fall where it may be mixed with unclean water. Mustafa explained his journey to the Imam. He asked to stay in the mosque for the night. Muhammad said, "Purity is half of faith. As a symbol of purity, the cleansing power of prayer, we wash our feet before entering a mosque." Islam, our religion, is part of our lives, closer to us than religion is to many of you in the Western world. Every faithful Muslim prays 5 times a day wherever he is, though most men try to go to a mosque to pray at least once each day. There is is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah. And yet Islam recognizes and honors other prophets: Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus. The origins of Islam are close to those of Christianity and Judaism. Another morning came. Mustafa saw a sight strange to the eyes in our land, a dam being built to provide electricity and irrigation water. Nearer to the city, he was surprised by the belching of smoke from a large building. He came upon a picture sign to warn those who cannot read that men were working on the road ahead. In our country, many men are needed for heavy work because we have few machines. Some break up the rocks to be used for the roadbed. Others carry the rocks in little baskets and pile them ready for use. We in the world of Islam were touched little by the Industrial Revolution that changed the face of your Western world. The Europeans who have lived here brought in some machines, but seldom were they for us. Now that we have our independence from the French and Spanish, our country must find ways of getting these machines that will help our people to a more plentiful life. At last, Mustafa came in sight of the White City where he might find learning, inshallah. It is not easy for a boy to come to a city, a strange place, alone and without friends. Where can one go to escape the noise, the confusion? And then, at last, Mustafa saw a familiar sight to remind him that the world of Islam is one. A piece of paper may have written on it the name of Allah and must not be left on the ground where it may be stepped on and defiled. And though Mustafa had little money, he felt better when he had given alms as the Quran tells us to do. It was a time to fight down the feeling of strangeness and look for a place to sleep. A young man was waiting for some work at a blacksmith shop. It was good fortune that caused Mustafa to speak to this young man, Ahmed Hassan, whom he would see again. The hand to the heart and to the lips to express esteem. Ahmed pointed out the way to a fundak where Mustafa could stay for the night. A fundak is a simple inn where travelers may cook a meal and keep their animals. Muhammad has said, "Be modest in bearing and subdue the voice, for the harshest of all voices is that of the donkey." Throughout the world of Islam, one Muslim will offer hospitality to another. This is part of our faith. Mustafa felt at last that in this city perhaps he would not be lonely. And soon he was invited to share a less simple meal with Ahmed Hassan. Islam's rule of hospitality works not only for the poor man in the fundak, but for the man who lives in a fine house. Through the centuries, differences in customs have made men of different lands feel as strangers toward each other. To us, it is strange that you eat at high tables and on chairs instead of divans. You may think it strange that we share a single plate. People in our country use their fingers for eating much of the meal. Strange to us is your custom of having women eat at a table when men have a guest. Nor do we approve of the children being seen. It is a misfortune that the way people feel about the customs of other lands helps to keep the peoples of the world apart. Mustafa went from Ahmed's house to meet the future. The future lay behind those white walls. It lay with a man of wisdom pacing in the courtyard of the school, telling the 99 names of Allah on his beads. It is not always wise to interrupt a man in thought, but Mustafa knew only of his wish to be part of the greater world that was beginning to open up for a few of his countrymen. We believe that nothing happens but that which Allah wills. It was the will of Allah that the man of wisdom should listen to Mustafa's earnest words and grant his wish. This city was to be Mustafa's home for the years during which he would become a man. Here he would buy his food, choose from the bright spices, call the grain merchant under the umbrella by name, pass each day the women selling donkey fodder. But first he must find a way of earning money to add to the small sum that his father was able to give him. Some students work part-time at making the fine leather that Morocco has produced for centuries. Some dyed wool. More often the job was that of errand boy. Though, like the other boys, he could earn only very little, Mustafa was fortunate to become a tailor's assistant. And in time, he found friends, other students to share a room and a full life. A few fine schools like this one were built during the years when the Spanish and French controlled the two sections of our country. At that time, few Moroccans were able to go to them. The result, now that we have our independence, is that there are not enough trained persons to meet the problems of running our country, or teachers to train those who someday can. Mustafa and these others who were fortunate enough to find a place in one of our few schools will help to fill the great need. They are the young people who will face the problem of poverty and disease concealed behind these walls so beautiful from the outside. They will have the problem of bringing knowledge to the farmer so he can produce enough food for all of us. They will face the fight against superstitions that allow people to believe that evil spirits called jinns are responsible for high prices, that make people put blinds before their windows to guard against the evil eye, that cause people still to believe that there are evil spirits to be frightened away with noise and the smell of gunpowder. These young people will have the problem of helping our women to the advantages now largely reserved for men. Once again, we are a free people ruled by our own king. It is a time to stir men's hearts. But when the excitement passes, it is a time to pause, time to think of the problems faced by our underdeveloped country in living with an industrial Western world. These are some of the things Mustafa will face in the years ahead. Now there is the excitement of learning. There are more of the words of Muhammad to be absorbed from the Quran. There is the life of the school. Today there are good friends. And after today, there will be tomorrow.